If you missed match week 8 of the EPL, you know I got you with the final results. To start off the weekend, Tottenham Hotspur would continue their unbeaten run against Luton and beat them 1-0. Tottenham now sits top of the table on goal differential and goals scored. Earlier this week, Chelsea would play against Fulham, beat them, and then beat Burnley over the weekend as well, 4-1. That is now back-to-back wins for the Blues, and you've got to start thinking, is this when they start to hit their stride? Sterling shined in this game. Is it because of the snub for the England national team call-up? Manchester United would barely escape this weekend with a win against Brentford as they win 2-1 to 2 Scott McTominay goals late into Fergie time. With Manchester United now hitting 500, is this when they start to hit their stride? You really don't know. I mean, they struggled against Brentford, barely beating him, so we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. Everton would finally register their first home win, beating Bournemouth 3-0, and Fulham would bounce back after their midweek defeat and beat Sheffield United 3-1. The final game of the day on Saturday would see Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest finish 0-0. Sunday was ties galore. Liverpool and Brighton would finish 2-2. Liverpool over the last 2 games would drop 5 points, while West Ham United and Newcastle United would finish 2-2 as well, and the Wolverhampton Wanderers and Aston Villa would finish 1-1. Now the biggest game of the weekend was Arsenal versus Manchester City. This was 2 heavyweights trying to compete for the title this season, and this game went back and forth. Manchester City without Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne. Arsenal without Bukayo Saka and Martinelli for the first half. Manchester City would have opportunities. Arsenal would have opportunities. But at the end of the day, Arsenal would just edge out Manchester City and win 1-0. Arsenal finally beat Manchester City in the Premier League for the first time in 15 years and end their 12-match unbeaten streak against them. Well done, Gunners. Arsenal now join top of the table with Tottenham Hotspur, just above them on goals scored. Now, the next couple weeks, there's not going to be much Premier League. I think it comes back on October 21st as we're moving into the international break. But that was your Week 8 final results. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one. Peace and blessings. I got about 5 minutes just to riff-raff back and forth. Arsenal Manchester City this weekend, you really could tell that Manchester City has been missing Rodri. I think they've lost 3 games now in the last 4 or 5. And so he is that presence that has been missing for them in the midfield. You have to admit that. But good on Arsenal without Bukayo Saka. They looked very flat for the first half. Martinelli comes on in the second half, absolutely electric, starts getting the shots. And then Mikel Arteta makes some adjustments, brings on Partey, Kai Havertz, and Tomiyasu. And all 3 of those players would have such a pivotal role. And then Martinelli, of course, coming on at halftime, would score the pivotal goal due to it hit Nathan Ake's face, bounced in. And so, well done, you Gunners. Good to see. Tottenham Hotspur, you got to give them their flowers as well. Top of the table, going into the international break with Arsenal. They're winning. I'm curious if they're going to be able to continue this hot form. They've been playing very, very well, edging out games the same way that Arsenal has been doing it. And so right now it looks like the fight for top 4 is looking like Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal, and Tottenham at this point in the season, 8 weeks in. Like I said in the last video, we have about 25 to 30 games left in the Premier League to play out. And so lots of time left in the season, lots of games to be played. At this point in the season so far, for Arsenal at least, beating Manchester City for the first time in 15 years in their last 12 appearances. Good on them. This hopefully is a sign of good things to come as they try to progress as a football club. Hopefully they can continue their efforts and move it into the Champions League. Arsenal lost midweek to Lens 2-1. Lens played very, very well defensively. Arsenal sometimes just lacks that oomph, and you have to just hope that they'll be there when they need them. I need to give the flowers to Saliba and Gabriel as well for Arsenal. Their centre-back pairing right now, it looks like one of the best in the Premier League, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but Saliba and Gabriel kept Haaland to a 0 expected goals this game. Haaland was non-existent in this Manchester City game. The player that looked most likely to score was Julian Alvarez, and I think that he's been the player of the season thus far for Manchester City. He's winning them games. He's hitting free kicks. He's scoring goals. And so if I'm a Julian Alvarez man, I'm wanting to play more. I want to start games. I want to be doing more. I want to be more involved in the team. Liverpool and Brighton tying 2-2. Liverpool dropping points over the last 2 weeks. Hopefully they can bounce back as well. If you're a Liverpool fan, hopefully they'll be able to bounce back as well. West Ham United showing that just because they got rid of Declan Rice, they can still compete. They're winning games. They've essentially rebuilt their entire midfield with the money that they made from Declan Rice. However, as an Arsenal fan, Declan Rice has been an absolute gem for us so far. He's winning us games. Partey can get hurt, and you don't have to be worried you're going to drop points. Hopefully players on Arsenal will start to return to fitness, and they'll be able to continue this run of form, and we'll be able to get more minutes like Smith Rowe, the different players on the team who need to be playing more. Same thing, Manchester United. I'm just curious what's going to happen. Their form has been very intriguing just to watch. They're losing and winning. There's not really an in-between. Like this weekend just showed that with McTominay. like late into Fergie time, they win that game. Like that game could have easily been a loss for them or a tie, but they managed to edge it out and just pull it out, which is really good for them. Chelsea bouncing back as well. They finally get back-to-back wins in the Premier League. And so you got to ask yourself now, is this now when teams start to hit their stride as the Premier League starts to kind of progress forward and teams start to mesh and hit their stride? Yeah, I think for right now, that's all the thoughts. We're obviously going into the international break. I might talk about different topics over the next couple weeks as well, just depending, or recap different things. But those are just my thoughts right now, week 8 into the Premier League. I'll see you on the next video. Peace and blessings.